yesterday, and I use air quotes when I say this, the new piece of what we learned was the fact that we had variables on both sides. And so the first thing that we have to do is to be able to move the variables together before we do anything else. Okay? So the very first problem says, solve for V. Simplify your answer as much as possible. So I'm going to put a line down the center. Gentlemen, I'm going to say the same thing to you. Stop talking. By the raise of your hand, somebody tell me the first thing I should do here. Peyton, do you withdraw that? Okay, Nevaeh, what should you do first? Subtract 6V from both sides. 9V minus 6V is 3V minus 14 equals -2. Raise your hand. Who's got the next step? Jacob. Add 14 to both sides. So if I add 14 to both sides, I end up with 3V equals 12. Who's got my last step? Finn. Divide both sides by 3. 1V equals 4. Okay? We collect our variables first. We get everything else to the other side. And last but not least, a +1 coefficient. Now, Nevaeh told us to subtract 6V. Could she have told us to subtract 9V? Yes. When is the only time it matters which one you move? JC? When it's alone. Skip the next one. We're going to come back to it. But go to the one with the W. For example, this problem, yes? 7W is alone. So I don't want to move 7W. So what am I going to move? 1W. To move it, I subtract 1W. 7W minus 1W. 6W equals 36. Last but not least, divide by 6. W equals 6. So technically, you can move either one. In a case like this, make sure the one that's already by itself, you leave it alone, don't move it. You never want to clear out one side of the equal sign. Okay, here's something different today. What is different about the problem with the U than we've seen before? Peyton. Bingo. Before we had multiple variables, right? But one was on one side of the equal sign and one was on the other. This time they're both on the same side. When your variables are on the same side, combine them exactly how they're written. So to help me with this, Ms. Hawk usually circles them. 2U plus 3U. Take them exactly how they are. 2U plus 3U is 5U. Remember when we did that online combining like terms and distribution? Where we practiced that? This is why. Now what's my next step? Kaya? Add 18 to both sides. 5U equals -35. Who's got my last step? Tori. Divide by 5. U equals -7. Good job with your negatives. -7. So if you want to talk about, if I could say a common error today, when they're on the same side, just circle them. Exactly how they are, we just combine them together. If you need to move it to the other side, then we do the opposite. All right? Let's go down to the bottom, the pool problem. 2 pools are being filled with water. To start, the first pool has 972 liters of water, and the second pool was empty. Water is being added to the first pool at a rate of 17 liters per minute. Water is being added to the second pool at a rate of 44 liters per minute. Let X be the number of minutes the water has been added. For each pool, write an expression for the amount of water that's in the pool after X minutes. An expression does not have an equal sign. So they say, go up in this problem and tell me how I could represent how much water is in the first pool without an equal sign, and how much water is in the second pool. The tricky part about this is they split the information up. The first pool is 972 liters of water. and water is being added at a rate of 17 liters per minute. Who can tell me mathematically how I would write that? Gavin.
972 plus 17x.
Careful. 17x. Thoughts? Starts with 972. He says that water is going up 17 liters per minute. Nicely done. The second pool was empty and water is being added at a rate of 44 liters per minute. Who can tell me what this one is? That?
I just didn't know if there was no line to start off with. Just say 44.
Technically, you know what people want to write? They want to write plus 0, right? Because it starts when it's empty. But if you add 0 to something, what is it? Whatever it was. So he's absolutely right. This is how you want to write it, 44x. Sometimes you're going to put it into Alex and you write 44x plus 0, and it's going to say, please write your answer in the simplest form. Because I don't want you at plus 0. When you add 0, it really is what you originally had. You've done the hard part of this problem. Now they say, write an equation, so we're actually going to have an equal sign, to show the two pools have the same amount. In math, the same amount means equal. So they want you to equal pool 1 to pool 2. Well, you just wrote pool 1, right? What was pool 1? And what was pool 2? Done. You don't solve. You don't have to combine anything. They just have this problem to practice writing the equations. You create this equation based off of those top two answers. You create it based off of those top two. Just practicing writing an equation. All right, flip it over. Now we're ordering pizzas. And I know you're all starving because I am too, so this is going to be a tough problem here. Complete the story below to represent the equation 12 plus 18x equals 22x. Then solve for x. Felipe is going to buy X pizzas tonight. Restaurant A charges blank per pizza, and there's a blank, and then we have to choose either delivery charge or discount. Restaurant B charges blank per pizza with no charges or discounts. And the total cost is either the same, restaurant A is more, restaurant B is more, and then last but not least, they want us to solve this. On that last problem, it was pool 1 was equal to pool 2. Each side of the equation represented a separate pool. Well, the same thing's happening here. Each side of this equation represents two different restaurants. One is restaurant A and one is restaurant B. My question is, how do you know which side is which? Gavin?
One has no other charges, so the one that has no other. So the one that doesn't have anything added to it.
Very good. Restaurant B doesn't have any other charge besides just the charge of the pizzas, so that can't have anything added or subtracted to it. So that right-hand side is going to be restaurant B, and the left-hand side is restaurant A. All right, together. Restaurant A charges $18 per pizza. Remember that per tells us we're multiplying. And there's a $12, now question, delivery charge or discount?
Delivery charge.
How do you know?
Because
Finn?
if it was discount, then it would be mine.
Very good. Discount's always going to decrease your cost. Very good. So this is absolutely a delivery charge because your 12 is positive. Restaurant B charges $22 per pizza and no other charges because there's nothing else added or subtracted. The total cost is the same for both. Restaurant A is more or restaurant B is more. You're filling in this blank to represent this equation. The total cost is the same for the two restaurants. Restaurant A is more or restaurant B is more. Don't solve anything. We're filling in and creating a story based on the equation. What do you think? Gatlin? Why?
Because it charges $18 cheaper than 12, but it charges an extra $12, and 18 plus 12 would 30.
Okay, but we don't know how many pizzas they're buying. All we're talking about is to set up this equation. Restaurant A is not more. You don't even have to look at the numbers on this. Jacob?
Restaurants pay, with restaurant fee,
Why?
because, if you look at numbers,
No numbers. No numbers. Gavin?
they're
There's an equal sign. In math, what does an equal sign mean? The same. The cost is the same. That is because we set them equal to one another. Guess what? Every problem today, they're going to be equal. So every time you have this question, guess what you're going to pick? The same. They are the same. All right, on your own. Solve. 12 plus 18x equals 22x to tell me how many pizzas Felipe can buy at both stores for the same cost. How many pizzas? 3 pizzas. 3 pizzas. Okay? All right. Mr. Lamar. Lamar is renting a car for the weekend, and he gets to choose one of 2 plans. The first plan has an initial fee of $55.96 and costs an additional 13 cents per mile driven. The second plan has an initial fee of $65.96 and costs an additional 9 cents per mile driven. How many miles would Lamar need to drive for the 2 plans to cost the same? I'm going to go to that very last sentence. How many miles? That tells us our unknown. What letter do you want to use? M is going to stand for the number of miles. Would Lamar need to drive for the 2 plans to cost the same? In math, the same means equal. So plan 1 needs to equal plan 2. Plan 1 needs to equal plan 2. All right. Who can tell me how to represent plan 1? Somebody who has not given me an answer today. How can I write plan 1 or the left side of this equation? Tori. Thoughts? 5596 plus 0.13 m. Keyword? Per. Did she put the variable with the right number? Nicely done. Good work. The second plan has an initial fee of $65.96 and costs an additional 9 cents per mile driven. Who can give me that side? Chris. Thoughts? Did he get the variable with the right number? Again, that keyword. Per. Solve this. Be careful with your decimal point. Be careful with your decimal point. I got down to 0.04 m equals 10. Am I right so far? Divide by 0.04 m equals 250. 250 miles. Miles. If you drive 250 miles, or if Lamar does, it doesn't matter which company he chooses, it's going to cost him the same amount. This problem, where people make a mistake, is losing their decimal. They'll say 13 cents minus 9 cents is 0.4. Well, in change, 0.4 is 40 cents, right? So don't lose your decimal. Question?
How'd you get the 0?
Because I bet you did that. I bet you have 0.4 written on your paper. 13 cents minus 9 cents is 4 cents. 0.4 is 40 cents. So be careful with that. And then if you divide, that'll get you your other decimal point. Okay? Today, you have an online assignment. I'm here to help you if you get stuck, but try it first. Don't erase what you have because I can usually find your mistake. Lots of scratch paper on the back with the boxes. Remember, you have to turn that in tomorrow for credit. The rest of the hour is yours to work. 2-4 online.